Are we live? Oh, here we go. We're live, and we're here with Fred Armisen and Carrie Bradshaw. Brownstein. Now, guys, with Portlandia, you've had 4 seasons of the show. How has it evolved over the years?
Um, we've just gotten a lot. We've used a lot more shorthand in the writers' room, so we've been able to kind of pinpoint what we think we're good at, and just as a matter of saving time, shooting the things that we know are going to be on the show. So it's more of a ratio thing of like our day-to-day shooting is a lot more efficient. And other than that, just getting to know the characters more, just getting to know our system a little better, trusting each other more. So it's definitely evolved as these things would.
Carrie?
I agree. I think that there is a shorthand with the writing that I think we've all kind of figured out our strengths, and I think we play to those both in the writer's room, and then that allows us to play to those strengths on set. And I think we rely on each other in terms of as we're kind of building the infrastructure of the script or of the scene, we sort of know how the other person kind of help add to things. And then, yeah, I think season 4 especially, we really wanted to give people character. I think we realized that's what was the most relatable thing about the show, and so we really built out some of the characters a lot.
And in building up these characters in season 4 in maybe a way you haven't in the past, like, how did you go about doing that, and what are some things you did to accomplish that?
I think, well, first of all, we realized that we had only sort of shown a very fleeting version of their lives, so we just thought about them as, you know, in terms of their multidimensionality, and thought about what makes them tick, what are the things, the essential traits to them that kind of put them in conflict with people around them or their environment. You know, we had whole pasts to explore with them, and so I think it was actually very freeing to us as writers, because we just thought, well, you know, we know so little about them, like, instead of exploring concepts, like, let's explore people, and so I think we started there. Okay.
Anything you want to add, Fred?
I think beyond that, we also allowed any. Sometimes, you know, there'll be like a very silly idea, and we almost want to throw it away, like, we can't really do that, and then all of a sudden, it just makes its way onto the show. So there's like not just a trust of each other, but a trust of the dumb idea, like something that only because it makes us laugh, we think, oh, it might have some value to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, like, this is the interesting thing, I think, with Portlandia is, Fred, your experience with sort of sketch comedy before this was Saturday Night Live, a great institution for sure, but now you've sort of moved over to sketch comedy where all the sketches have to take place in one certain world. You can't just go from a, you know, presidential debate to a Lonely Island music video to a, you know, a spoof of The Sopranos. You've got to build all these within this one world. Does that pose more challenges, or does that give you more freedom?
Both. Like, freedom actually does give you a challenge, because then you have to sort of edit yourself. You have to sort of rein yourself in a little bit. So it's both. It's definitely like, okay, now it's this one world. We can't just jump, because sometimes jumping around can be easy. Sometimes the shock and the thrill of all of a sudden being in Rome, you know, or like the way that SNL jumped around, like that's something that, like, the relief of going to this other place is kind of like gives you some mileage. So this takes a little bit more, just a little bit of concentration for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what do you think, Carrie, about this sort of a show where you've sort of like got this sketch comedy, but you've also, it's a bit like a sitcom where it's all taking place in the same environment?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think Fred's right. I think having certain parameters are good, because then you have boundaries to push up against, and you know, I think certain rules help with the writing, they help with the performance. So I like also that because it can't squarely fit into the category of sketch, there are things about it that sometimes feel episodic. It feels like we're returning to similar themes or characters. It feels very elastic in that way where, the form, it feels innovative and like that we can, we're not so limited by, it has to be a sketch or it has to feel like a sitcom. I think that, I think it's just been a really nice way to approach the show, and it keeps it grounded. I think it keeps it very sort of earnest and makes sure it has heart when we're always kind of circling back to this idea of here are these characters relating to their environment. Like, how do we keep making that interesting?
I guess one of the things you can get with a show like this is that you can build more relationship with the characters as you explore their world and get to know them better through each week. Which character do you think you guys play that might have the most heart to them and that you can sort of follow along and empathize with a bit more?
Oh, man.
I would probably say Peter and Nance. What were you going to say, Fred?
It's just such a tough one because, as far as heart goes, there's the stuff that you see, and then there's the stuff that we think in our heads. You know what I mean? When we have to watch the show, sometimes I think Nina and Lance, there's a little bit of some pretty heartfelt stuff going on, but to Carrie's point, yeah, Peter and Nance definitely have they're all heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think we can really explore. I mean, I think it's true with Lance and Nina as well, but with Peter and Nance, I think we can really explore some relationship dynamics and a little bit of heartbreak and a little bit of, trying and not always succeeding in certain situations. But yeah, we've really tried, as absurd as the show can get. I think we've actually tried to infuse heart and relatability in all the characters, because that seems to be what if you start with a place from a place that's very realistic, and then you can deviate and get very surreal and very absurd. But we try to make the the impetus and the essence of the characters real, and then we're allowed to get silly from there.
And what's the funnest characters to play in Portlandia?
I'd say Tony and Candace, the feminist bookstore ladies.
I agree.
That's nothing but fun.
Yeah. I'm with Fred on that.
And what's the craziest thing that you guys, from your perspective, you've gotten to do on the show?
Probably Pull-Out King is so bizarre. I loved, we were able to combine all of these different ideas we had. We had observations about stay-at-home dads needing validation through blogs and just the weird culture of stay-at-home dads and male braiding, guys braiding each other's hair. We had all these very real things, but then we were able to couch all of that in a highly absurd sketch that involved the double meaning of pulling out. We had the pull-out sofas, and then we had the other version of pulling out. And somehow, despite that being the wildest sketch we've ever done, I've had more people come up to me after watching season 4 saying that they could really identify with Nina and Lance. It's also strange because we're we're playing opposite gender in that. So there's so many ways that you would think people would not understand that sketch, and I feel like people identified with that more than anything. And I thought that was we were really proud about that, because it's we made something very strange. We made it relatable, and so that was an achievement for me, and that was a lot of fun.
Moving forward with the show, what are some things you'd like to do in Portlandia?
I think we'd probably want to go even deeper into the past of some of these characters, because we've got to think about how did they meet, and that's always kind of a nice thing. Not completely staying there in the past, but just a little more about how all of us came to be. I think would be a nice thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're writing season 5 right now, and I think we are interested in exploring the ways, why these people tick and maybe who they were before we sort of knew them as a couple. So there's a lot of avenues to go down.
Now, we're an awards website, and Portlandia has done quite well at the Emmys. You've won 2 for costumes, and the last 2 years you've been nominated in the really sort of competitive variety writing category. What's it been like to get that acknowledgement from the Academies for a show on a network that doesn't really get heaps of Emmy nominations?
Well, we feel so honored, to be acknowledged and sort of considered in a category, like you said, that is, very much a catch-all. I mean, you have shows like The Colbert Report and Jon Stewart's show and Letterman. I mean, we couldn't be more different from those shows, and they do hundreds of episodes a year, and they do write every day and put on a show at night, and so I think it's testament to the creativity of the Academy that they would consider our show, as something to acknowledge and to reward. There's a siren going on outside. Sorry.
Is everything okay?
Everything's okay. Everything's fine.
Okay.
But I mean, we just feel very lucky. There's so many great shows out there in our category, whether it's sketch shows or, like nighttime talk shows. We just feel lucky, don't you think, Fred?
Yeah, it's like, for real, the actual real feeling, even privately, is it's really nice to be included in that arena at all. I'm well aware that there's so much out there, and it's also kind of nice that there's only 5 of us, the writers. So that's kind of like, it's like a nice thing for us.
Yeah, so all those other shows have like 20 plus.
Yeah. We're the underdog. We're very small, but yeah, we feel lucky, and it's validating. It's exciting.
And it's only going to get tougher for you this year because there's even more competition this year, particularly from new shows that are sneaking up there, like Late Night with Seth Meyers. How are you feeling about the new competition?
I don't know, but we don't like to think of the idea of like tougher or this year. All we can think of is the quality of our show. So the fact that we just feel lucky enough to be in the arena at all during our run as Portlandia, that is enough. It's not a boxing match. It's not like we can't think of it as such an athletic event because I think it's bad then we're writing right now, so we have to focus on that. That's all we can do is just, it's great if it happens, and if not, we have to just. Also, all these other shows, these are all people that we know. These are our friends. So we'll end up with them at some party somewhere. And that's the best. We know them all, They're our friends.
Yeah, no, for sure. And this year, Fred, you had you're now a part of Late Night with Seth Meyers on the band. What did it mean to you to be able to be a part of another variety show, a very different type to Portlandia and a very different type to SNL as well?
Well, it's a different job, It's just playing music and putting a band together. And they were they have the understanding that I've got to go do Portlandia for most of the year. So that's more like sort of icing on the cake, like a fun thing, something that I consider a hobby that I get to do, to be a part of, in my life. And also Seth is a close friend of mine and a friend of Carrie's as well. So it's almost like just another room in the house, of the family house.
Yeah. So with Portlandia and with that show and the sort of direction that's gone in, and are you going to keep on adding characters to the show, or are you happy with the amount you've got at the moment?
I think both. I think it's important to keep exploring, and some ideas don't feel like they can be explored within the characters that we already have. I think it's also exciting and challenging as a writer to incorporate new characters in the show. but that challenge is totally equaled by the challenge of writing for the same characters we have. So I think they're both, we try to play to both those strengths, you know, but it is, I think we're pretty happy with a certain kind of cluster of characters that we have. We probably are focusing mostly on them, but it's always fun to come up with new ideas and expand the world of Portlandia.
Yeah. Fred?
I can't comment on that at this time.
Okay. Okay.
No, I agree with it. No, it's you know, new characters is always fun. Like, I forget that that's a thing that can happen, but it happened on this season 4, and then when I see them on screen, I go, oh yeah, that's kind of a fun thing about watching the show, is like there's some other brand new character. Carrie did this this head of the sort of vegetable world, you know, in the celery episode. Yeah, and it's like for me as a viewer, it's fun for me to see, like, oh yeah, that there's more and more people you can do.
Yeah.
And what I find interesting is always the origin of these shows. And we talked a lot about sort of how the show's changed recently, but what gave you two the idea to work together on this show?
I think we just, when we met, we had already been part of sort of a similar world in music, and we were fans of each other's work, and I think we saw a kindred spirit, and we felt a very similar sensibility, and I think we felt very compelled to do something, and I think we continue to be surprised at how, like, effortless it can be to work with each other. Like, we get along so well. We come at ideas in similar ways, but also I think some of the differences that we have really, like, add to the dynamics of the show. So I just think it's so rare. I mean, when you see it in other shows where it's like a genuine friendship, I think that's a very infectious quality, and I think it's part of the charm of the show, and I think part of the reason people return to it is because Fred and I just really love working with each other.
It's true. It also makes the mechanics of the actual work day a lot easier. We approach it with it's you know, and I'm sure many comedians and actors feel this way, but it's like we look forward to going to work, even at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. or whatever. It's like kind of it's a fun hangout day.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, like, whether you're just washing the dishes or you're running a comedy on TV, like, if you're doing it with someone you enjoy to be working with, you're gonna have a good time.
Yeah, after this, we'll just wash dishes together once the show ends.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Or we'll turn that into a show. We'll do a washing dishes show.
Yeah, it's like instead of a kitchen. Yeah, we'll follow a cooking show on a network with our washing dishes show. We'll just wash dishes for cooking shows.
Yeah, that's good. And with Portlandia and with the show, now I've forgotten the question I was about to ask. It was going to be about Fred and Carrie. I've completely lost it. Oh well, there you go.
That's how good our washing dishes show idea was.
I know.
Yeah,
you're strategizing. You're trying to figure out how to pitch that show to a network right now.
And you can't because we called it. And also, there's different jurisdiction in Australia. You can't come to this country and pitch it. Maybe we'll pitch it in Australia's Hollywood. Where's your Hollywood?
I don't know, like Sydney and Melbourne both have TV studios and stuff.
Yeah. So little enthusiasm. You have to be proud of it. You got it. This is how you say it. Yeah, Sydney and Melbourne are the best studios.
Yeah. Oh, very good. So with the show and with sort of how you guys got started and how you guys with your friendship put this show together and things. What I'm wondering is, what's the response been like from people? Do people now recognize you, Fred, from Portlandia more than like SNL now?
Without a doubt. It's a very noticeable thing where people used to say my name more, and no joke, I hear more and more, "You're the guy from Portlandia," which is really nice. It's like, but it's also surprising. I'm like, wow, but now I've been reduced to the guy from Portlandia. So it's nice. I'm glad that they think of me that way.
Mm. Yeah. And Carrie, is there a big fan response with you?
Reduced was the wrong word. I just mean that, like, how about simplified too? The guy from Portlandia.
Yeah. And Carrie, has there been a good fan response for you too, Carrie?
Oh yeah, I mean we're continually overwhelmed by the fact that this is a show that people talk about. I think there's so much out there on the landscape, and it's kind of hard to cut through, with how many shows there are. And so the fact that people come up to us from all walks of life, all age groups, all demographics, and say that they like the show, that's the most flattering thing. That's as validating as it gets, and it just makes us want to continue to do the show, and it feels like we're being cheered on. It's like running a race and being cheered on. So yeah, we're really excited about that, and it feels great. It's still surprising. We don't take it for granted at all.
Mm. Well, thank you so much, Fred and Carrie, for spending time out of your busy schedules to talk to us today. All the best with the Emmys, all the best with Portlandia, and if you ever get that dishwashing show greenlit, I'm more than happy to come on board the team.
All right, great.
Okay. We'll let you know. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank
Bye.
you.